Nice. Hey, that was easy. Beautiful. Nice job, gentlemen. All right.
Cool.
All right. TV Land, welcome to the Legacy Project episode number 22. I'm so excited to be here. We were just on a little pre-call a little bit, and I'm actually a little nervous, to be honest with you. And I don't get nervous often. I think one of the reasons why I'm nervous is more of excitement. Dr. Brian Paris. Brian is a major man who came into my life in 2020. And we met through our journey through the Rising Man community. I'm going to plug them. And we did our desert journey, Compass. I won't go into a lot of details just for the sacredity of that. But, we met 4 years ago this July. And we started our journey to the desert October 2020. And why Brian's so significant is you have to understand, we went to the desert. I was the second oldest, and Brian was the third oldest. I had a broken leg, and Brian was a hot mess. So but it's interesting is that we kind of, if I'm gonna get into dialogue, as men, we kind of like size each other up, right? And even though I had crutches on, Brian and I were still sizing each other up. It was fucking funny as hell. And so, but with all love, Brian is a father. He's a doctor of chiropractor. He's a business developer. He's a cool dude. And if you ever get to meet him, I would say the one thing he's gonna leave you is he shares his love, and he shares his desire for you to just be yourself, like no other man I've met. He means so much to me because the conversations we've had, the depth we've had, I've learned that even though he's a man with a lot of shit going on, that deep down he really means well and he wants the best. And like any other man, he's just going through his own struggles. So Albert, I'll let you kind of dive in a little bit, but that's my little dialogue that I want to get Brian plugged in here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brian, for taking time out of your day. It's just super cool. We had an awesome chat the other day, just kind of getting to know each other, and I'm just honored you're here. So for everyone that's watching, so stay tuned. And if you have any questions, please let us know. We want to just have fun tonight. We want to, just dive a little bit deeper about what's really going on in our worlds, because there's only so many spots where we're able to be truly vulnerable. So thank you, Brian, for coming on in.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So
I have a question at first. So Brian, is your volume down just real quick?
Yeah.
Just make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, it's going to go kind of a rabbit hole. Like, I really want to ask you, like, how are you feeling right now? Is this kind of euphoric for you because of our background? And I'm just curious at what you see here, and then the vision of maybe what you see for yourself down the road.
Well, I was more, it's like this mixture of excitement and calm, because I know you. I've recently met Quattro, and we have common friends as well. And I know that this is going to be challenging because I've never had a conversation where you haven't asked a challenging question. And I'm not talking about math. I'm talking about like, face yourself.
Yeah.
Can we curse on
Yes.
here?
yeah.
All right. So like, face yourself, motherfucker.
Right.
Like, I'm asking you the question, don't dodge it. And so, we've had a really good friendship, and I trust that, all the great qualities in you've passed on epigenetically to this awesome dude that I see here. So yeah, I'm ready to roll. All right, so like, bring it on. Bring it on, and I'll rip it open.
So I prefaced it before, and I'm asking this for myself, and also just to set the scene a little bit. We all went through the journey out in Red Rock. We actually talked about it a little bit last week on a podcast, and I was just curious, like, after you guys, just for people that don't know, we all went to the desert to go and find something for us, and we're talking about the hero's journey tonight. And so, what was it like for you to face it with my dad and go through something as crazy as Threshold was? and go to the desert and face whatever you were dealing with. Can you set the scene for that for us, just to set the tone?
Yeah, and it goes back because we met each other a year ago. Like when you go to the desert, you start with Zoom meetings because you're with men all over the country. And, I think my first meeting with Albert, he had no shirt on. He wasn't as lean as he is now, but he was still big. And like some people can't tell if they're big online, but I was like, this dude's big, strong, loud, opinionated, and like what the fuck. But then as soon as we got to know each other, and when you're at the desert, it was like I'm here with my the phalanx from 300, right? Like the shields that come together. Like I knew instantly that if I fell, this guy, even though he's on a crutches, if I fell, I knew he's going to pick me up, or he's going to motivate me or inspire me to get up and work on myself. And then there was something else that happened, and Albert may have shared this, and it was really impactful. A couple elements that we experienced together in the desert. One was, dude was on crutches. He had a broken foot. And, it was kind of comical watching him wear through the rubber on the bottom of the crutch within the first 8 minutes of being out there. Cause you gotta walk in a mile and we're carrying water and food and supplies for 6 days, 7 days in the desert, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll carry 2 jugs, blah, blah. And then there was a period of time where we brought all the stuff up. Albert made his way up, carried what he could carry on his crutches. Like I'm like, all right, this guy's major badass. He's walking through the desert on broken crutches, so to speak. And he was sitting there, and I could already tell, I know Albert's the kind of guy who wants to always help the group, not for ego, because he's just a man of drive and purpose and vision and unity. So I think I just made eye contact with him. I was like, dude, sit. A couple of people were like, stay. And I could tell he wanted to get up and make another mile walk down on crutches, mile back up. And I was like, I'm on 2 legs. I'm fit for this. I got it. Sit. And it was like an opening for him and me together to know that we're brothers, no matter what. Like we could help each other and not judge, and just know that like we're there for each other. And then on the latter end of that experience, after spending 4 days in isolation, no humans, fasting, which actually to me was the easy part. We came back. You walk back from your place of solitude and you cross over a line of threshold, which but the threshold line is like, okay, you're leaving behind what you decided to leave behind, and you're crossing over that line. And I saw Albert was like, and he didn't have the best backpack because it wasn't designed for like full like ergonomic style, including crutches, right? So you add that on top. And I was like, dude, I got your bag. Let me carry it. And it took him a second to give it up, but I helped him carry it across. And that was something that he had left, like humility. He came back from the desert more humbled. And I think that's what we all, I hope that most of us men could experience that level of humility and being humbled in life.
I have chills because I've heard his story, and the fact that you went through that with him. No one else experienced anything like that with each other, like what I held with my 3 other guys. We hold on together, and then what you guys had is special too, because it's kind of like going through Hell Week, right?
Yeah.
No one else is going to go through Hell Week with you, and it's just something that's uniquely there, and it's putting you, the man in the desert, right?
Yep.
And so that's cool, because knowing him, I'm cut from the same cloth, and we laugh about it all the time. Is like, if we're there with the group, we're looking out for the group first. That's what my dad has always been done. Is like he quotes himself on being a martyr for the family to make sure that we're taken care of before everyone else, the tribe, is taken care of. And so the fact that he like almost had to break his other leg to make sure that was
to hold him down.
I know it took a lot of courage to hold that in. So thank you for at least helping him through that.
Yeah.
I'll say something real quick. So I got the chills, and the reason why I just, you took me back, Brian, because I remember seen you in Sandeep, and I put it in the book, but for whatever reason, when you said, I got it, I remember like freezing, like, I don't want to give it up. Like, I can't show my weakness. And I remember you just looking at me, and this is why I love you. Like, just to let you know, privately, all my good friends call me Al. You're the only guy that calls me that, by the way. So it's this criticism that I never corrected but you're like, Al, I got you. And I just remember, you don't know this, but when you took my bag and you guys kept walking, I cried, bro. I cried all the way. I cried all the way back to the threshold. It was, I think it was like the first time that I really felt that somebody genuinely cared about me. And that's why I love you. And that's why I've been hard on you. That's when I've been, at times a dick to you, or whatever you want to call it the truth, right? And then we'll digress a little bit, because I want to know from you, like, it's been 4 years from that experience, right? And I thank you for the interlog on that, Albert. What did you take from the desert, but what are you barely applying now in life after 4 years?
Oh, geez, that's a double question. I knew it was coming early. um, I took parts of myself back. Parts that I had been ignoring for a long time, and perhaps, like, we could go on for hours, but it was, just like distractions. There's no distractions when you're out there, and all you have is yourself and your connection to nature and God, if you allow it. And I experienced all of those things. And I think, what am I not applying in life now? I get caught up in the distractions and the itchiness and the hungry ghosts of everything that drives me towards negative behaviors. Like, we've shared this before, that the devil never takes a day off. And I firmly believe that. And it's like, it's our life's job and our life's journey to say no thank you, or thank you to the devil.
Not
For,
today.
yeah, it's like, okay, I'm gonna fight today, and I'm gonna fight today, and I'm gonna fight today. So I think the peace and connection with nature is something I don't do enough, because I'm learning, like, the older I get and the better I know myself and the deeper I connect to myself, the more I know that I am nature. And that's a piece that I'm working on myself for my own geography, so that I can be in nature more often.
Yeah, and when we were there at different times, I mean, I don't know if you noticed too, like, I would just watch the birds for hours. It was just like so calming just to see, like, and I made this point actually too with my dad when I came back from it. It was like, it's funny how you touched on like how little you go in nature, and I feel like I'm the same way. I feel like I'm always busy, but am I always doing something that's good for me? I'm not sure, or just keeping busy, trying to be more intentional with that. Um, but I thought it was really funny at the time when, like, I was just in go, go, go mode. But then, like, when you're put in emptiness, you still don't always feel connected to everything sometimes, Like, it was nice to connect to nature, but you have nothing to do. And so now it's like, oh, okay, what are you really going to do in that time frame? Are you actually going to deal with what's going on, or are you just going to, just bypass it and make it one more thing? And so I thought that was interesting how, like, whether you're busy or you have nothing, you still want to have that connection with people,
Yeah.
Like, you're still missing that missing element,
Well,
And it's just something the desert teaches you with that.
we have to bring up our boy Sandeep. Hopefully he logs in here, but he
Harris was on.
was like part of the crew. Oh yeah, what's up, Paris? And I think he's in England right now. So, um, Sandeep was the first human that I saw after 4 days, and you would share that you cried. Like, I started crying just as I saw him. Like, I'm walking down the hill, he's walking like up, and we met in the middle in our spot. And I was like, wow, like I so appreciate relationship, and realize how important it is to how important relationships are to, and not just family and friends, but in general, and how they help shape our own minds and our own lives. So it was just a beautiful experience.
So on that note, relationships. So again, we'll stay with the desert, but and I'm going into fatherhood a little bit. So how has your relationship with yourself deepened just recently? Because I've seen a shift in you. I guess I would say is, what's been the biggest shift in your relationship with yourself in the last couple of years that maybe you avoided, or maybe you just didn't know, or just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and like, I'm a scientist and a nerd, and I like to study. And the things that interest me the most are an integration of neuroscience, like like new neuroscience, not the stuff that's already in textbooks from 50 years ago, but the stuff that people are actually applying in real life, and traditions like the desert. Like, the desert is an indigenous tradition, but not but and they figured out stuff. Like, people, I don't know the timeline, but everyone knew, like, thousands of years ago, that the body was made of cells before we had microscopes, right? So, like, what I've discovered is ways to strengthen my mind, and also strengthen my body, and realize that they're one. So, like, I can't just go to the gym and pound weights. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be extremely productive, get more work done in less time, and spend time by myself, and consistently dive into what it is that makes my mind. And I've learned that it's embodied process and a relational process in the same. So I've really leaned into what I'm learning, and then teaching it and applying it to my own life. So it's like, you could say, like, yeah, I do like Wim Hof breath work and ice baths, and I've done all that, right? But it really comes down to what I'm doing moment by moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know we all went to the desert for our own experience, right? When you came out of it, there's going to be shifts in your personal relationships, like for me, my dad even mentioned, because he got to see his full transformation first, and then he saw my transformation. You could just tell, like, he knew I was going to be overwhelmed, right? Because he already went through it, right? And then coming back out of it, the people that we hold dearest to us might even look at us and be like, who is this person? Why
Yeah.
are you different? Why are you different? And that can be challenging, because not only did you lose yourself, but other people lost themselves in you, right?
Yeah.
Selfishly, of course. But so when you came out of it, how were what did you notice with your relationships, and how did you strengthen them with your kids, with your family? What specifically did you notice with that?
I would say that I've become more at ease inside, like more comfortable in my own skin. And I think part of that is physical and spiritual grounding. Like, I know that I have to come back to my 2 feet. So I think it's made me a way more patient person. I used to be so impatient and so impulsive. And that experience helped me slow down and shut up, so I can actually listen, versus coming up with a response. I have friends that would be like, dude, he just asked me a question and then answered it for me. So, like, I have slowed down and really taken the juice from being truly empathic. Like, what is it like to ask a question and be so curious? And of course, I'm diving into the neuroscience, right? Because curiosity stimulates release of dopamine, and dopamine keeps us young when we're in this seeking state. People are like, why do you look so young and you're 50? I'm like, well, one, I'm blessed genetically, and two, I take care of myself, and I'm always seeking. I have this thirst for knowledge and connection. And I think that also adds to keeping me young.
So I'm going to dive a little. I'm going to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen right out of the desert, bro. Like you struggled. So I guess to answer Albert's question is there was a time period that you didn't. There's fuckery going on involved. So when, because you're calm now, I could say, like, I definitely in the last year, I could see what you said change. However, out of the desert, how long did it take you to really buy into this new man that you are now? Like, what was that process like? Because you had to go through this metamorphosis process.
I think part of it also is the Fire Circles, which is the men's team that we've been part of.
Yeah.
And I've really leaned into that and learned that one of the most humbling experiences as a man is to ask another man for help.
Yeah.
And like express, like, I need your help. And even like I did this last night, and I talked to a friend of mine before this call, and I wanted his insight. He's a CEO and he's in men's work himself, and I was like, I just value his insight and approach to life. And instead of like dancing around the words, I was like, yo, I need support. Are you available? Blah, blah, blah. And we just connected. And he was like, those of us men who are in this work, when we've got other men in our life that we trust and know that we're there for each other, it's like, yeah, man, let me finish what I'm doing and I'll pick up the phone. And so just really letting go and realizing that, the only way I'm going to grow is by giving more.
Do you think part of that has been the solitude you've been in? Or why do you think that's developed so fast in the last year?
It's like an acceptance of where I'm at in life and really just enjoying the present moment instead of like constantly thinking about what's next, and that's allowed me to slow down and say, like, okay, be right here, right now. And, loneliness is a big thing for me. And, because the way I developed my attachment style was an anxious attachment style.
All three of us were like that.
Yes. Yeah, we got it. So like I'm always like, it creates this clinginess inside of this neediness, especially like in romantic relationships. It's ridiculous. I sense myself like I meet a woman and I'm like after the first hour I meet her, I'm like, okay, where are we moving? Like, are we going to Texas? Like, dude, like, slow down, man. Like, you haven't even met this woman in person yet. I've had to learn to like really look at how I formed, how I developed as a human, what my attachment styles were, accept those, and stop using them against myself, and like really recognizing those signs. So I don't know what it exactly was. And part of it is discipline. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day now, and I'm lifting hard 4 days a week, and I'm doing cardio 5-6 days a week, and I'm spending time alone and enjoying my own company. And I think like that was the start of it. It was like, this is what it's like to be in solitude. This is what it's like to be in your own skin.
Love it, man.
I'm actually curious on that, just kind of side tangent too. I notice it's really easy to be alone sometimes when you're always trying to be curious, right? It's hard to adventure with other people that are on different adventures at the same time. There's just too many other things that happen there. It's kind of a question to both of you guys as being older men. As you guys get older and learn, there's like an exploitation versus exploration. Have you heard of that at all?
Exploitation versus exploration?
Yes.
I've never heard that.
No, it's this theme of like when you exploit something, it's you doubling down on your strengths basically. And then exploration is the curiousness of it. And there's this balance that happens so when you're learning, like for me in general, I'll be more in the adventure exploring phase because I'm younger, right? I have less resources, so I need to go out into the wild and go and extract those. Versus as I get older, I would most likely like exploit what I already have because I've either gained more resources, so now I'm just trying to leverage out everything. That's the general concept, right? There's micros of these in our day-to-day life, Just on that quick little synopsis, like as you guys have gotten older, it seems like you've learned how to be better with yourself by like in solidarity, right? How do you think that's impacted I think I want to dive on the personal relationship portion of that. Like, is that hard for you to relate to people as you get older? And has it allowed for more connection with your, I guess, your kids as well? And that's a two-parter.
All right, go. I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to sharpen my sword of discernment, and my energy and my time have become way more valuable to me. So, and what I mean by sharpening the sword of discernment is that, you know, like I'm definitely the guy that's like in Whole Foods and I know every person at the cash register just because I'm friendly and I've been in there. And I also have to just be careful with who wants my time now and what I'm willing to give. And it's not just, I'm not talking about just like an energy. It's more of an energy exchange than a money exchange. It's not about that. It's more like, who am I willing to give my time to, and who are the most important people to me? And what was the second part of that question was?
I guess about like also your kids too, and connecting with them like over this new age of like when you're learning to want to like reconnect and like come out of this new evolution that you've gone through of like finding yourself and knowing like who Brian is, like how has that allowed you to like almost walk in their shoes without stepping on their shoes?
Yeah, it's a fine line. Great question. You know, my kids are older. They're not as old as you. They're 20 and almost 18. So they're like fully conscious and awake. They don't support themselves yet. They're on their journeys to becoming adults. And I've become radically disciplined with giving them the opportunity to feel themselves and express it. So like everything that I've learned, I used to like be an anger addict among many other things, right? So I go right to anger if someone triggered me and blah. Whereas now I'm teaching my children to, and they're young adults, but I'm teaching them to like have their own voice and see them as their own people. And it's been just it's like an exponentially growing experience in the closeness that we've created. Um, and I'm vulnerable. I tell them about all of it, most of it, most of it, a large portion of it. Yes, when appropriate. So yeah, and that's really is like sharing who I am, what I've gone through, my failures, and the lessons I took from those things, and um, like core values of being in integrity and living a holistic lifestyle. Like those are things that I'm constantly communicating around.
Yeah. So my answer is going to be way different because I think you know me. Like, you know, the exploitation part, you know, son, you got to understand, like, I don't think you would see this father in front of me if I hadn't fallen as far as I would have fallen. My ego was as big as anybody I knew because I didn't want you to really know me. Like if I told you some of the secrets that I was holding, my attitude was, you don't need to fucking know. Like you're not even old enough. That was my attitude. Like you don't need to know what I did when I was a kid. That's none of your business. But that was the belief system that was handed to me by my father. It was this hierarchy. So it wasn't that I wasn't capable. I didn't know that it existed.
Yeah.
And I think the everything that happened from you know we don't need to go down diatribe, but from me falling to the desert to all these things, what it did is it grounded me. It just grounded me so fine that I become something different, which was this man that you're meeting and know now, which surrendered and is open and I have to entrust truth, and not just truth but the truth. And I think that's allowed me to explore, like we've talked about this, the more truth that you and I talk about, the more intimate I get to be with myself and with you, and that allows more exploration because there's no more governors in my body that are holding me down to not unload or unleash something you don't want to know. So I think the only way I can answer it is the only way we would have gotten here is the path that I was on, which was to get completely decimated. That's the only way that I was going to change. It was the only way. Like if I was married to your mom, I can't say that. I don't know if I would be the man that you needed in your life if I was still married, because I was so detached from who I really wanted to be based upon the life that I was living.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, right? And as far as I think the byproduct, this is what I've seen. I think what I love about you as kids is your mom and I always taught you, just like Brian, like to express yourself, to be free, to really explore, but also to see with your eyes what's true. And I think what you saw with me was, I didn't beg for you guys back. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I just said, I'm no longer doing this. And you guys were like, okay, let me see if that's going to last a little bit. And I just kept going in this other direction. I never talked to you about what I was doing. Then you guys started asking me more questions, like, why are you doing this? And why are you doing that? And I just was kind of played it. I like, well, because I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And I think that by me not really having to explore my ego of why I was doing it, it allowed you guys to really be attracted to this dad that I wanted to become, because it was, and it's still growing, by the way. It's still new. So I think we're all still learning how to adjust to this person, because I was a certain way for 47 years. And so I think the byproduct is you as adults now are like, fuck, if my dad can do that, like I can do that, which I say I'm honored that you guys see that. But I think it was up to me to say, I just don't want to be that guy anymore. And I want to be this one. And I think it's paved a different course to where you guys can see the light that, okay, you literally can fucking teach an old dog new tricks, and you can pivot. However, you have to do it because there's no other options, as opposed to I have 10 other options to go to. So I think that's the byproduct, has just been you guys being able to see your dad.
Yeah, what I heard from both of you guys is like how much it was about yourself, but how you could give back to everyone else too. Like it seems like you guys knew you guys had to go into, like, willingly walk into the fire, and like it didn't matter if you came out or not. It was just what you had to do, and whatever burned off, right? And I think that's what's so hard as a human and as a man, is like willingly, you have to take that responsibility, and you have to like willingly go into it, because if you're not liking what you see, there's something that has to change no matter what, for the greater good.
Yeah. And you brought up the word responsibility, and like that's, just to echo on all we've been saying, is like taking radical responsibility for everything in your life, because I'm the common denominator in all the things I complained about or blamed other people or society for. It's me.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I talk about in the book, becoming, I think it's too easy for men to become windows in life. Like this all happened to me. And then you put the mirror on ourselves, like, no way, I did that. Right? So that happened to me, but now I have a responsibility to like not keep using that as a crutch.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you credit, Brian. Like what I'm going to tell you as a friend, like the difference that I see you just being on the show and just the dialogue is I see the man that you and I talked about a year and a half ago. Who do you really want to become? And not only that, I'll tangent into fatherhood. Like what I'm seeing that you're doing. Again, this is just you're talking, so I'm assuming that's correct because you're saying it. But I just mentioned your relationship with your kids have grown. I'm curious at what adjustments you needed to make so that your kids could be more attracted to the dad that they needed.
So you got cut off a little bit. The question was, what adjustments did I need to make for myself?
So that your kids could be attracted to the man you are now as a father.
I had to become, like, using this word again, like radically responsible for everything in my life, radically disciplined in my listening, and also giving them space. Like attachment is like this infinity loop, right? Like, when do I get close? When do I go away? Like, we all need time together, time apart. And, I tend to go on that I'm never going to see you again, living from fear, you're in college, blah, blah, blah. And like, no, just take every single moment as the most beautiful moment. And sometimes I got to ask questions, and sometimes I learn to just sit back and let them come to me.
Yeah.
So it's again, like you said, it's ongoing, and it's an ongoing experience and learning experience as a father.
Can I ask you guys an interesting? I listened to a podcast this week. I'm just curious. One of the things this gentleman said was about like being a father and how it may not be the most important thing in your life. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that, and then I have a follow-up question of like, what are you guys most proud about in your life? Like, how does being a father impact your ability to be a human in this life?
Ooh, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree with you guys. Um, these deep questions. I literally thought the other day, and I was having a discussion with someone, and I would still at this point, like nothing has changed. Like I would push my child out of the way of a train and get hit, and I like felt that as I was saying, and I'm like, yeah, I just would. And it's not even a question like saving my own life or saving their lives. And that's why I love the name of your podcast. You know, the Legacy Project is like creating legacy. So I think a lot of the things that I do in my life are the most important because I'm passionate about everything. What I teach, the people that I serve, and it's a yes and. It's not one or the other. You know, like I wouldn't take away being a father for anything. It's been the biggest mirror and lessons I've learned about myself that I apply to all areas of my life. And I think it's just the archetype also of being a father is something that I've just had ingrained. Like, you know, I think one of the things, one that I didn't mention in the desert was like Albert and I both as the graybeards in the group, you know, we're out there with like 20-year-olds who have never run a business or had a child. And we've been there, done that. And we took our seat at the elders table. And, you know, as I'm approaching 50, I'm like, I like being at the elders table. I've always wanted to be this man, and I'm finally here. And it's like that man was always inside. I just had to go through the lessons.
Yeah. Interesting question, bud. Seriously, bro. I love it. Again, I'm gonna use my childhood. You know, I wanted to be the dad that I didn't have, dude. Like you got to your question is a broad question, but it could be chunked down into 0 to 8 years old, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 20. And so I would say when I initially became a father, what I was most proud of is I'm like, I'm gonna do to this little boy, you and your sisters, I'm gonna be the dad that I always wanted, which was play on the ground, give him love, kiss him all the time. I still kiss my son to this day, Brian. I remember one time he was like 16. He's like, "Stop kissing me." I'm like, "I'm gonna keep kissing you even when you're fucking married, dude." And he looked at me. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hug you and kiss you until you fucking die." I think that because that I wanted to give you what I didn't have because it filled my cup. Now, fast forward. I think in conversation you and I have talked, I think what happened to me and me making a decision to be not just a man, but a father figure now that now all of you can look at that I never had, nor I knew what that looked like. The legacy part. I think that is what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of that there was a chance for me to just wither away in the wind. I could have got another relationship or got married or whatever and just did what was on my path. And I, for whatever reason, God, spirit, universe, my conscience, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I was like, no, there's no way. Even if I die, I'm going to show that I can be this other person that I really wanted to become and be, and that my hopes someday that my kids would be proud of their dad. And to this day, I tell the story all the time. Brian, we're at the fucking gym, and I say it with pride, okay? We're at the gym about a year ago, and I can tell you dollar for donut, my kids didn't respect me for years. They tolerated me. I was their dad. But they didn't respect me. There's a huge difference between respect and being tolerated. We're at the gym, working out, and some of his Albert's friends come by, and they're like, who's that guy you're working out with? And he's like, that's my fucking dad over there. They're like, that's your dad? You're going to look like that? But it was actually the first time that I actually heard him being proud in space of others. Yeah. That's when I knew that I got his attention. That's when I knew, all right, you're on the right track, because if he's doing this in front of his peers, that means he's doing it when I'm not around. And I think that is the biggest. If I were to die today, God forbid, my legacy would be that you and your sisters, your mom, whoever was in my life, that Albert decided that he no longer wanted to be someone he was, and he showed his family that you could be whoever you wanted to be, literally, if you just surrendered, you fucking radically honest about your own self, responsible, and you stop making excuses for everything that happened in your life.
I love it. I think, that's why we wanted to build this thing, is just figure out what can we do to help, like, follow yourself. What can you do to, like, just share this story? Because, that's how we've learned forever, is just passing this down one by one, right?
Yeah.
That's how you learn. That's how I learned. I didn't go through the same hardship that you've been through. Probably not the same as you, Brian. I don't know your backstory as much, but it's just like, that's how I've learned, is what you guys went through, so that I don't have to make those mistakes. And if I do, at least maybe I can make them and learn them a little quicker.
Yeah.
So that's what's really powerful, is like, I am fucking proud of you, Dad. I love being able to just share this with you. I love being able to share this with you, Brian, and meet someone else in the Rising Man community that I haven't had the pleasure of knowing. And it's just like, the more we share, the more we grow. The more we grow, the more we can pass this down to other people. And that's what's really incredible.
So, Brian, we got about 10 minutes left. We'd like to dialogue. Is there anything you want to ask Albert or I, or something that you're just kind of itching to talk about, or just something to say? And then we can finish up with one more question, possibly.
It's more of just a statement. Like, I love what you guys are doing here, and I think it's so important for the collective. And I'm going to speak just for men in general, just to show how you both show up as strong and vulnerable, like open heart, strong spine. Like, you guys are just like, you're here, and in I would say traditionally, like, when men are talking about feelings, it's definitely looked down upon. Yet we've made it cool. And I got to thank Jetty and the other people who before him, and his brothers and forefathers that have taught him these ways of, like, and it's cool because these traditions are indigenous and ancient. It's not like there's this new technology. It's just, all right, like, get in touch with yourself and then learn how to express it and ask questions and be vulnerable. So, not a question necessarily, because I'm just happy being a fan and watching you guys do this and seeing it grow.
Are you looking forward to doing something with this with your family down the line? Like, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I have ideas. Because my daughter specifically is in digital marketing and journalism and stuff, and I'm tweaking her to help get my message out. She's not ready yet. She's busy. My son he's really relationally intelligent. I know he's going to be a great salesperson. And, if there's a family business that comes out of it, that's cool. And if not, I want to send my son to the desert. I've talked to him about it already. You know, as soon as I came back, he's young. He's 17, so we'll see. Um, and I also I see this as like this is also a catalyst just for staying involved with a group like Rising Man and uh, helping men help society because we've gone off the rails with if you want to call it toxic masculinity and toxic femininity as well. So I like getting back to the basics of like what it's really like to be a man and be in integrity and be grounded. And I want all men to be able to live like this to help grow our culture.
So I'm curious, Brian, as we kind of close out here. So I'm just curious, what did you get? What did you get out of this session with us? And is it what you thought it'd be, or is it something completely different?
I didn't come in with expectations. My expectations were like I knew I was going to get difficult questions, but not difficult to think. It's more so like, can I open up and be truthful? And it's just a deeper connection with you guys and honoring this project. And I love being part of it. And I love the influence that we can have over or with our other men that we know and people watching that I don't even know.
I think that's been one of the biggest things too. Is we've had a lot of female. I don't know if my dad shared this with you or not, but there's a lot of female watchers as well that periodically check in and ask questions all the time because it's not just catered towards men. We want to help just broaden the communication aspect. We just do it because it's father and son, and it's not very traditionally done, at least in our modern society, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't really make sense, but whatever. And we wanted to just like share how we came to the table, how we really just decided no more to this hiding that I know I do, like I want to sometimes just like be at bay and kind of feel it out, before I can be more open to people. And so this is a lot for us both to practice on a day-to-day basis and with people we barely know. He's done it with some people I've introduced, and same with him. He's introduced me to you, and just being able to just be open and just share. It's really powerful, and it's just a blessing that we're able to come together. So
Yeah, and I've only met you a handful of times digitally, and you're a stand-up guy, man. So you should be proud of yourself. And I don't want to should you, but I know Albert is extremely proud of you. So it's and you're doing great work, man.
thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah.
So what I got out of this session really is deeper connection, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on. I know there's a side of me that you've seen before, right? And this is a different side that I want to show as well, because it's not just about being hard, but it's also being compassionate. And what Albert has brought to the table for me is just his curiosity. It's just I've told him over and over, like he has this masterful way of just asking questions, and in a way that it's piercing, but it makes you think a little bit. I'm still rough around the edges. I'm still learning, but it's my way, and it works its own way. But we have to. So I just realized, just another testament to the work that we're doing, and then for you to come on here and be vulnerable and just talk about life experiences. That's what we want to do. We're sharing other perspectives, that not everything is hunky-dory. There's failures, there's things we got to go through. And that is the blessing, it's the failures and adversities that we get through that create the strengths for us and the growth.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of people see that as a negative, which we're reinforcing. No, let's talk about it. Let's be honest. And that's been one of the pillars of our, Albert and I, our ability to really stand firm in what we're doing here. So I appreciate you being on here, but that's what I got. What about you, bud? What'd you get out of this?
Honestly, the desert, that was really cool. Just I've heard your story a handful of times, and then just hearing someone else that was a part of it, just like a third-party account of what you guys really go through, because it allows for me to go back real quick and just be like, yeah, I do miss those guys. I want to reach out to one. One of my one of my fellow desert goers, he just had a baby recently too. So it's just that transformation of like coming back from a year and who we are now. It's just fun to look back to because one, you don't want to go back to that person, but also like that was part of your story and like that's where you, if that was where you were before, look at where you can go down the line. So it's more of just the third party account, hearing Brian's side of your, I guess, your unwillingness to want to do that, but the forced humbleness that does come out of those experiences when you're literally crippled. So I think that was really powerful.
I think that's why they call it a rite of passage, right. which is like it's a passage into the life you want to live, and it does it like you said, Albert. It's not all rainbows and Skittles. You know, it's like this is the rite of passage, like, and that's what's missing, and that's why I'm like so grateful for Jetty and this group and the men that have been involved before and after.
Cool. Well, we're gonna end now, everybody. I want to thank Dr. Brian Parrish for being on here, and we're here every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. PST, the Legacy Project. And again, I want to thank Dr. Brian Parrish for being on here and sharing his love, his wisdom, compassion, and you, son. I got to tell you, man, I love you. I love the man you are. I love the wisdom you bring. I love the fucking thunder you bring. And so just don't change. I keep bringing it and keep growing. But I can't tell you how proud I am to be on the show with you, man.
I love you too. Thank you so much, Brian. It means the world to us.
Yeah, love you guys both. Thank you for the experience. It's another growth, another rite of passage.
See you next week. See you.
Thank you, everyone.